You have been disrespected. Someone decided quietly that you didn't matter. They talked over you. They mocked you. They tested how much you would tolerate. And in that moment, you felt it. That surge. That urge to react. That urge is exactly where most men lose power. Because here's the truth most people never learn. Power isn't shown in reaction. It's built in response. Niccolò Machiavelli saw this 500 years ago. He watched strong men fall not because they were weak, but because they reacted when they should have positioned. He understood something brutal and simple. The world doesn't reward emotion. It rewards control. If this already feels uncomfortably accurate, subscribe. Not for content, but because what you're about to learn only works when it's built step by step. This isn't about revenge. It's about becoming untouchable. By the end of this, disrespect won't anger you. It will expose people. You'll know exactly when to stay silent, when to move, and how to command respect without asking for it. Stay with me. This changes how you handle every man who ever doubts you. Disrespect is a test. Disrespect rarely arrives loud. It doesn't kick the door down. It knocks softly and watches how you answer. A joke at your expense. A delayed reply. A tone that drops just enough to be felt. Most people misread this moment. They think disrespect is emotional, personal, accidental. It's not. Disrespect is a test. Not of your strength, but of your boundaries. Here's the part most people miss. The first act of disrespect is almost never the real goal. The reaction is, when someone crosses a small line, they are asking a silent question. How much can I get away with? They're watching your face, your tone, your speed. They're measuring resistance. And whatever you give them, confusion, anger, over-explanation, they log it. This is why disrespect escalates gradually. If they came in hard, you'd push back. So they start light. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you rush to smooth things over, you've answered the test. Most people respond in one of three losing ways. They laugh it off. They explain themselves. Or they react emotionally. Each response teaches the same lesson. You can step closer next time. That's how authority leaks. Machiavelli understood this pattern long before modern psychology named it. People probe power the way water probes cracks. Slowly, patiently, without emotion. Picture a common scene. Someone interrupts you mid-sentence. You stop. You let them finish. You don't return to your point. Nothing explodes. But something changes. They interrupted once, and it worked. Now, here's the cliff most people don't see until it's too late. Once disrespect goes unanswered, it stops needing permission. What began as subtle becomes routine. What was once testing becomes expectation. And by the time you finally react, you look sudden, emotional, or difficult. That's the trap. The test wasn't about that moment. It was about whether you would allow a pattern to form. Here's the shift that changes everything. Disrespect doesn't require confrontation. It requires calibration. Sometimes the strongest response is a pause, a neutral stare, a refusal to continue as if nothing happened. Because power isn't loud. Power notices and adjusts. If disrespect is a test, then what you think is patience might actually be training people to push further. Hold that thought. Because in the next chapter, you'll see exactly why the most common reactions to disrespect don't just fail, they permanently lower your position. The weak reaction. Disrespect only wins when it provokes the reaction it was designed to trigger. And most people fail right here. The weak reaction is always emotional, immediate, and predictable. Someone disrespects you, and you rush to explain. You raise your voice. You defend your intentions. You try to set the record straight. In that moment, you think you're protecting your dignity. In reality, you're handing it over. Because the moment you react emotionally, the power dynamic flips. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Whoever controls your emotions controls your actions. When you react impulsively, you confirm something dangerous, that the other person has access to your inner world. They can press a button and make you move. That alone places you beneath them. Think about it. Why does disrespect happen in the first place? It's rarely random. It's a probe, a test. They want to see if you'll flinch. And when you snap back, argue, or over-explain, you fail that test instantly. The weakest reaction isn't silence yet, it's justification. The man who explains himself after being disrespected is silently asking for approval. He's saying, "Please understand me, please see my value." But authority never asks to be understood. Authority is assumed. Watch this pattern carefully. Someone mocks you publicly. You fire back with logic. Someone undermines you at work. You send a long message clarifying your intentions. Someone crosses a boundary. You laugh it off to keep the peace. Each time, you think you're being mature. Each time, you're teaching them that pressure works on you. And here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't respect emotional honesty. Under disrespect, they exploit it. Once they see you react, they now know where the leverage is. They know which words trigger you. They know which insecurities to poke. The next time, the disrespect comes faster, sharper, and more public. Because now it's entertainment. Now it's control. But this is where most men misunderstand strength. They think strength looks like dominance, confrontation, winning the argument. Machiavelli knew better. Strength is denying your enemy the reaction they came for. And in the next chapter, you'll learn why silence, when used correctly, does something far more devastating than any comeback ever could. Why explaining fails. Explaining feels responsible. It feels adult. It feels like the fastest way to restore order. That's why it fails. The moment disrespect appears, most people rush to explain themselves because they believe clarity creates fairness. If they understand me, they'll stop. That assumption is the trap. Disrespect is not confusion. It's positioning. And explanations destroy your position. When you explain, you shift the frame from authority to defense. You stop standing on your decision and start orbiting someone else's judgment. Without realizing it, you've agreed to a trial you didn't need to attend. Here's the part most people miss. Explaining only works when the other person already respects you. When respect is absent, explanation becomes negotiation. And negotiation implies weakness. Think about how it looks from the outside. Someone challenges you. You respond with reasons, context, backstory. Your voice softens. Your sentences get longer. You add details no one asked for. You're not clarifying anymore. You're trying to be accepted. That's not power. That's exposure. Machiavelli warned that authority collapses the moment it feels the need to justify itself. Why? Because justification signals uncertainty, and uncertainty invites pressure. Notice how manipulators operate. They don't attack directly. They ask innocent questions. Why did you do it that way? Don't you think that was unnecessary? I'm just trying to understand. Each question is bait. If you explain, they learn something critical. You can be pushed. And once they know that, they keep pushing subtly, consistently, until you're permanently reacting instead of leading. Here's the harsh truth. Explanations reward disrespect. They teach people that crossing your boundary unlocks access to your inner world. That pressure earns them more information, more attention, more emotional energy. You may win the argument, but you lose the hierarchy. Strong positions don't explain. They state, "I decided this. That's how it's going to be. We can revisit it later." Short, calm, finished. This isn't arrogance, it's containment. Now here's the cliff most people fall off without seeing it coming. Once you stop explaining, people don't immediately respect you. They get uncomfortable. They push harder. They escalate. And that's where most people panic and revert. But that discomfort is the signal that the shift is working. Because in the next chapter, you'll see why silence, when applied at the right moment, doesn't just stop disrespect. It makes people second-guess themselves long after the interaction ends. Make it cost them. Disrespect only survives where it is cheap. That is the rule most people never learn, and the reason they keep losing authority without knowing why. The moment someone disrespects you and nothing happens, a silent lesson is taught, not to them, to everyone watching. The lesson is simple. This person can be crossed safely. Once that belief forms, it spreads, quietly, invisibly, and by the time you feel it, your position is already weaker than before. Here is the mistake weak men make. They think making it costly means anger, confrontation, loud dominance. They raise their voice, they threaten, they explode. And in doing so, they prove the opposite of power. Because emotional reactions are cheap, anyone can lose control, anyone can bark. Only someone with leverage can impose consequences without noise. Making disrespect expensive is not about punishment. It is about withdrawal of privilege. Access is a privilege. Attention is a privilege. Familiarity is a privilege. When someone disrespects you, they forfeit one of these immediately and without explanation. You stop responding the same way. You stop engaging at the same level. You stop offering warmth where contempt was shown. And here's the part that unsettles them. You don't announce it. No speeches, no warnings, no dramatic exits. One day, they realize the door they used to walk through freely is closed. Conversations are shorter, opportunities vanish, influence disappears. They feel the loss before they understand the reason, and that confusion is the price. This is where most people fail. They want the other person to know why. They crave acknowledgement, validation, an apology. But the moment you explain, you reduce the cost. You turn consequence into negotiation. Power never negotiates after being disrespected. Machiavelli understood this deeply. A prince who explains teaches his enemies how to manipulate him. A prince who acts silently forces others to adapt without instruction. And here's the micro-truth most never see. The cost doesn't need to be severe, only consistent. Humans adjust behavior based on patterns, not intensity. When disrespect reliably leads to loss, it stops. When it leads to drama, it continues. Watch carefully. The person who disrespected you will test again. Subtle this time. A joke, a tone, a small boundary push. This is the moment that determines everything. If the cost holds, they retreat. If it doesn't, they escalate. And what happens next decides whether you regain authority or permanently surrender it. Because the final stage of disrespect isn't loud, it's casual, and by then, the damage is already done. In the next chapter, you'll see why most people sabotage themselves at this exact moment, and why their instinct to clear the air destroys the last leverage they had. Silence hurts more. Silence is not passive. Silence is pressure. And most people don't understand how deeply it cuts until they're on the receiving end. When you respond to disrespect, even angrily, you give the other person what they want: engagement. You confirm that they reached you. You prove that their words mattered enough to move you. That reaction becomes their reward. Silence denies them that reward completely. Here's what happens instead. When you say nothing, their mind starts working against them. Did I go too far? Did I miscalculate? Why didn't he react? The absence of response creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is psychological pain. Humans are wired to seek feedback. Silence gives none. It traps them in a loop they can't close. This is why silence feels unbearable to insecure people. They need validation, positive or negative. Anger reassures them they exist in your mind. Calm words reassure them they still have access. Silence tells them something far worse. They don't matter enough to respond to. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that rulers who answered every provocation appeared fragile. Those who withheld reaction appeared unreachable. And what is unreachable becomes feared. Think about this carefully. If someone insults you and you argue, you lower yourself to their level. If someone disrespects you and you explain, you elevate them to judge you. But if someone disrespects you and you go silent, you remove yourself from the game entirely. And this is where the real damage begins. They will replay the moment again and again, searching for meaning. They will talk about you to others, trying to regain control of the narrative. They may escalate, provoke harder, or suddenly act friendly, all attempts to pull you back into engagement. Silence turns them into the reactive one. But here's the part most people miss. Silence only hurts when it's controlled. Silence mixed with hesitation looks weak. Silence mixed with insecurity looks like retreat. But silence delivered with calm body language, steady presence, and zero explanation feels final. It says, "I've already decided where you stand." And once someone realizes they can no longer access your emotions, they lose leverage over you. That loss unsettles them more than any insult ever could. Because insults can be fought. Silence cannot. And in the next chapter, you'll see why most people sabotage this power instantly, and how one single mistake turns silence into submission. Cut access. Disrespect survives for one reason: access. People only test boundaries where they still feel welcome, where they still have a seat at your table, where they still believe they can reach you emotionally, mentally, socially. The moment access is removed, disrespect collapses. Most people get this wrong. They argue, they explain, they demand apologies. All of that keeps the door open, and an open door tells the other person one thing: you still matter enough for me to engage. That is fuel. Cutting access is different. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. And that is why it works. When someone disrespects you and you quietly reduce their access, fewer replies, shorter answers, less availability, their brain notices immediately. They may not say it out loud, but internally they ask a dangerous question: what just changed? That question creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates discomfort, and discomfort forces reflection. Here is the psychological truth most people never learn. People respect what they can lose. When access is unlimited, you are taken for granted. When access becomes conditional, you become valuable. This is where weak people panic. They worry about seeming rude. They worry about being misunderstood. They worry about losing the relationship. But what they don't realize is this: the relationship was already damaged the moment disrespect entered. Cutting access doesn't destroy something healthy. It reveals what was unhealthy all along. Watch what happens next. Some people will adjust. They will correct their tone. They will show respect without being asked. Those people valued the connection and simply needed a boundary. Others will react with anger. They will accuse you of changing, of being distant, of acting cold. This reaction exposes them. They were never attached to you, only to the access they had to you. And here's the quiet power move most never see coming. You don't announce the cut. You don't explain it. You don't justify it. You simply become less reachable, less available, less invested. Because explanation reopens the door. Access is leverage. And leverage only works when it's controlled. When someone no longer has access to your time, your emotions, or your presence, they lose the ability to influence you. They can't provoke you. They can't drain you. They can't test you. And here's the cliffhanger most people aren't ready for yet. Cutting access isn't the final move, it's preparation. Because once access is gone, silence becomes lethal. Authority shift. Authority is not something you announce. It's something people feel the moment they deal with you. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people never realize. You don't lose authority because others are stronger than you. You lose it because you give it away, piece by piece, through your reactions. Think about when authority actually collapses. It's not when someone disrespects you once. It's when they do it again and nothing changes. That's the moment the hierarchy updates. People are constantly scanning for signals. Who reacts emotionally? Who over-explains? Who tries to regain respect instead of assuming it? When you react, you communicate something dangerous without saying a word. I need this interaction to go my way. Need is weakness in power dynamics. Now here's where the shift happens. The moment you stop trying to win interactions and start controlling access, the balance flips. You don't argue. You don't escalate. You don't perform dominance. You simply reduce availability. Less access to your time. Less access to your attention. Less access to your emotional energy. And something strange happens. People who felt comfortable pushing boundaries suddenly feel uncertainty. The jokes stop landing. The tone changes. They start watching you instead of testing you. Because authority isn't loud. Authority creates hesitation. This is why silence after disrespect feels heavier than confrontation. Confrontation keeps the game alive. Silence ends the round. Here's the part most people miss, and this is important. Authority doesn't come from punishing others. It comes from removing incentives. When disrespect no longer gets reactions, explanations, or emotional payoff, it becomes useless. And people abandon behaviors that stop working. But this only works if you stay consistent. One calm boundary, followed by 10 emotional reactions, resets everything. One moment of control, followed by chasing approval, undoes the shift. Authority is built through patterns, not moments. Now, notice something powerful. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to be intimidating. You don't need to be dominant in the traditional sense. You need to be unavailable to disrespect. When someone realizes they cannot pull emotion out of you, cannot provoke you, cannot drag you into explaining yourself, they adapt, or they disappear. Either outcome restores authority. Once authority shifts, some people won't like you anymore. But those people were never respecting you to begin with. What changes next is not how they treat you. It's how you see yourself, and that changes everything. Untouchable. There is a moment when everything changes. Not externally, internally. It's the moment you realize you don't need to win every interaction to win the game. Most people never reach this point. They spend their lives reacting, correcting disrespect, explaining intentions, defending boundaries after they've already been crossed. They think authority comes from being understood. It doesn't. Authority comes from being unmovable. An untouchable person is not loud, not aggressive, not constantly asserting dominance. They are calm in situations where others unravel. That calm is not personality, it's leverage. Here's the shift most people miss. When someone tries to provoke you and fails, truly fails, something happens in their mind. They expected friction, they expected resistance, they expected emotion. And when they get nothing, confusion replaces confidence. They start watching you instead of challenging you. This is why Machiavelli understood that power is not about control over others, it's about control over yourself. The person who cannot be emotionally moved cannot be strategically used. But becoming untouchable is not about ignoring everyone. It's about selective presence. You engage where it matters. You withdraw where it doesn't. You do not explain why. Most people leak power because they feel obligated to respond, to clarify, to justify silence. The untouchable person never does. They let outcomes speak. They let absence communicate. They let discomfort do the work. And here's the part most people find unsettling. Once you become untouchable, some people will escalate. They'll push harder, test boundaries more aggressively, try different angles to provoke a reaction. This is not failure. This is proof it's working. They are searching for the version of you they used to control, and they can't find it. And eventually, something breaks. Either they adjust their behavior, or they remove themselves. Both outcomes favor you. Because untouchable does not mean isolated. It means unavailable to disrespect. You still connect. You still care. But access is earned, not assumed. And once people realize that access to you comes with conditions, respect, restraint, alignment, they treat you differently without being told to. That's real authority. Not announced, not enforced, felt. So here's the final question, and don't rush it. Who in your life still believes they can move you emotionally whenever they want? Write your answer in the comments. Because the moment you stop being reactive is the moment you stop being controllable. And that is the moment you become untouchable. You don't need to fight louder. You don't need to explain more. You don't need to prove anything. The moment you control your reactions, the game changes in your favor. If this video sharpened your awareness, don't let it end here. Subscribe, because once you see how power really works, you can't unsee it. And comment below, who are you cutting emotional access from? Your silence is already doing the work. If you haven't watched my previous video, Nothing Can Manipulate You Once You See the Game, Machiavelli Dark Power Tricks, you're missing the foundation that make this video more effective. Think of this video as strategy. That one is your armor. You'll find it linked below and on the end screen.